A federal judge just ordered Virginia to reinstate the more than 1,600 voters taken off the state's voter rolls after being identified as non-citizens.
This is a stunning ruling by a federal judge who is ordering Virginia to reinstate individuals who have self-identified as non-citizens.
Just came down in Virginia, illegally allowing non-citizens to vote in our elections.
So in August, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin announced that they had removed over 6,000 non-citizens from their voter rolls. And this was done utilizing data from the DMV and Social Security Administration. Soon after, the Biden-Harris DOJ sued Virginia, saying that they had removed non-citizens too close to Election Day. And now the result of this lawsuit has just come out. A President Biden-appointed federal judge right here, Patricia Giles, judge of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia, has ordered Virginia to reinstate the voter registrations of more than 1,600 residents who told the state that they are not U.S. citizens and thus would be ineligible to vote under federal law.
And more on the breaking news now. A federal judge just ordered Virginia to reinstate the more than 1,600 voters taken off the state's voter rolls after being identified as non-citizens. The Justice Department filed a lawsuit after their removal, which alleged that Virginia violated federal law by systematically removing those non-citizens from voter rolls too close to Election Day. Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin says the state will immediately petition the court for an emergency injunction.
Yeah, Harris, common sense is clearly not at play here, and that's our issue. And so the common sense answer is, of course, that if people have been taken off the voter roll, they're not able to affirm that they are a U.S. citizen, they shouldn't be voting. And they can, of course, affirm they are a U.S. citizen and get back on the voter roll. That is common sense. That's a process that's been working in Virginia for 18 years. And to have a federal judge order that we reinstate over 1,500 individuals back on the voter rolls doesn't comply with common sense, the Constitution, or Virginia law.
Every American needs to be focused right now on Virginia and what's happening with those non-citizens.
So this is very concerning, and it brings me back to when Republicans in the House of Representatives and the Senate were trying to pass a bill called the SAVE Act, which would have required voters to show ID when they went to vote. And the number one contention from the Democrats, other than the crazy allegation that this bill was somehow racist, the number one contention was, guess what? It is already illegal for non-citizens to vote in the United States election. And you know what? They are actually correct. Of course they are correct. Everyone knows it's not legal for non-citizens to vote in federal elections. I mean, it's kind of a, no-brainer. But even if you go to USA.gov, it has very clear guidelines of who can and cannot vote. It says who can vote. You can vote in the U.S. federal, state, and local elections. If you are a U.S. citizen, then it says some areas allow non-citizens to vote in local elections only, which I think is absolutely insane. But you can vote if you are a U.S. citizen living outside of the United States. You are a U.S. citizen who was born abroad. Your eligibility to vote is based on the state where your parents last lived. Or if you are a dual citizen living in the United States or abroad, and then you must meet your state's residency requirements.
And what's even more astounding is the vast majority of these folks had presented immigration documents confirming that they were non-citizens, and we recently had that verified by federal authorities. So here we are with a judge saying, put people back on the voter rolls who you know are non-citizens. And this is under a law in Virginia that's been in effect since 2006. It has been applied by Republican and Democrat governors alike into this 90-day period. And here we are 11 days before a presidential election, and a federal judge is ordering them back on the voter rolls. It's astounding to me that this could possibly happen.
So this seems like to me a just desperate attempt by the Biden administration and the left, the Democrats, to attempt to, how do I say this, in a way where I will not get in trouble on YouTube. But they are attempting, shenanigans, because I think they are looking at Kamala's poll numbers and they are starting to freak out. Do you know how close it is in Virginia? I think the polling is in 1 point between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump right now. At least that was the latest polling I have. So every single vote counts at this point. But there might be a silver lining, because Governor Glenn Youngkin said that he is immediately appealing this to the circuit courts, and he will go all the way to the Supreme Court if need be.
I mean, listen, common sense says non-citizens aren't on the voter rolls, but the Constitution and the law say it as well. And that's why we are immediately petitioning the Fourth Circuit for an emergency stay here on this injunction. And we will immediately go to the U.S. Supreme Court if necessary.
But Donald Trump also just talked about this as well, and he slammed the Biden DOJ for doing this, for suing the state of Virginia, and also the federal judge for trying to force Virginia to put non-citizens back on their voter rolls. But he did this in Austin, Texas during a press conference after he appeared with Joe Rogan on his podcast, which is, as of this time, as of me filming this video, hasn't come out yet. So that is going to be very exciting. But this is what Donald Trump had to say at his press conference in Austin, Texas. Take a look.
I want to address the unconstitutional decision issued today by a radical judge appointed by Biden, and just came down in Virginia, illegally allowing non-citizens to vote in our elections. In fact, a poll came out, 87% of the people disagree, so that's pretty good amount, isn't it, Ted, huh? The outrageous decision goes against the very bedrock of our democracy, and thankfully, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, who's doing a terrific job, is working hard to fix this problem. They found thousands of illegal votes, and the judge said, you didn't do it in a timely fashion. They did it a long time ago. As legal scholar Andy McCarthy just said, and very correctly, how can non-citizens be allowed on the voter rolls if their voting is a federal crime? Constitutional law professor Jonathan Turley, two great guys, by the way, also notes that it is a crime to be a non-citizen voter. Removing illegal voters off the voting roll should be a big priority for this country, and yet instead we're scorned by a judge. This is blatantly un-American, and it's election interference, and Kamala Harris is behind it very much. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention, and obviously, I mean, it's up to the governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, but I assume they're going to be appealing it. I think he's going to. And they feel very strongly about it, so we'll see how it goes. But you have to get the confidence going for elections when you have decisions coming down like that, where they allow people to vote that blatantly aren't qualified to vote. It's pretty sad for our country. We have enough problems with the elections. It's about confidence.
You know, he's absolutely correct. And I think Governor Glenn Youngkin brings up a great point. I mean, it's just common sense. These residents identified as being non-citizens, yet the federal government says, hey, Virginia, you have to allow them on the voter rolls, when their own laws say that non-citizens aren't allowed to vote in federal elections. And I mean, isn't that kind of crazy? In some areas, they can vote in local elections. That's just insane to me. And I think it completely undermines this argument that the Democrats had during the SAVE Act, when the Republicans were trying to pass the SAVE Act. They're like, oh, non-citizens don't vote in our elections. It's illegal. It's illegal. That's what they always say. It's illegal. And they use that excuse, as well as, you know, it's racist, that excuse, to never pass any voting reform that would require some sort of identification to vote, even though for a billion other things you have to provide identification, right? To go into some of Kamala Harris's own rallies, you have to provide some sort of identification. To walk into the DNC, you had to provide some sort of ID. But yet, when it comes to the most important civic duty of a citizen in the United States, they don't have to provide proof of citizenship. They don't have to provide ID. Some states require it, but some states don't. And I think you can figure out what color those states are. But what do you guys think about this? What do you guys think of this federal judge forcing Glenn Youngkin in Virginia to put these non-citizens back on the voter rolls. Do you think that the circuit court is going to reverse this decision? What do you think is going to happen? Let me know down below in the comments. Like, subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. But until then, I will see you on the next one.